Well, hello, and welcome to the Cory Doctorow podcast and part 9 of my reading of my 2003 novel, or 2004 novel, beg your pardon, Eastern Standard Tribe, published by Tor Books, available in paperback in stores around the world, and also for free on the Tinterwebs at craphound.com/est. Well, just got back into town. I'm about to leave town, as they say. Someone comes to town, someone leaves town. I was at Ad Astra, the Toronto Science Fiction Convention, at the weekend. As I mentioned before, it was the first con I ever went to when I was a teenager, and I was really honored to be invited back as guest of honor. And I met some really cool people, some of whom had some very nice things to say about this podcast. Hello. I had quite an adventure getting to Ad Astra, flying from Los Angeles to Toronto. We blew out a cockpit window at 30,000 feet over Tulsa, Oklahoma, and had to emergency land. Now, it wasn't the inside window, it was the outside pane. There's multiple panes of plastic or glass or whatever it is. And a materials science engineer I spoke to said he thought that it was probably like flexion in the plane's skin that caused the torque on the plastic, and it just went poof. Anyways, so we landed in a hurry, and then when we got to the ground, they said, and by the way, they've shut the Toronto airport, freezing rain, don't you know? You're spending the night in Tulsa. We've got you all rooms at the Best Western. I'm here to tell you that wasn't the Best Western. I've been in better Westerns than that one. It was a pretty mediocre Western. And a little tip for you, ever stuck in Tulsa, down at the airport, want to order in some food? Don't order in Indian food. Not Tulsa's specialty, at least not out by the airport. There's probably some great Indian restaurants in Tulsa, but they're not the ones that deliver to the airport. Anyway, had a great time in Toronto, and tomorrow I'm off to Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, back to Canada, my homeland, our true north, strong and free. I'm going to be speaking at Simon Fraser University tomorrow, Thursday, and on Friday, and then leaving early Saturday. Looking forward to seeing some of you there. This is the first time I've ever come and spoken in Vancouver, so I expect to see lots of new friends who I haven't seen before, and I'm looking forward to that. Boy, it was a great week, last week or so. Lots of great news, none of which I can actually disclose in detail, but there are some film options that are closing this week. There is a comic book deal that's closing this week, and I've been given a really major award that I can't announce until later next week. So the next time you tune into this podcast, I'll have some details for you. But it sure does give you a warm glow for all that stuff to happen. I tell you what. Well, that's my news. I hope that you're enjoying Eastern Standard Tribe so far, and I hope that you enjoy it now with Chapter 22. Linda's first meeting with Art's Gran went off without a hitch. Gran met them at Union Station with an obsolete redcap who was as ancient as she was, a vestige of a more genteel era of train travel and bulky luggage. Just seeing him made Art's brain whir with plans for conveyor systems, luggage escalators, cart dispensers. They barely had enough luggage between the two of them to make it worth the old man's time, but he dutifully marked their bags with a stub of chalk and hauled them onto his cart, and then trundled off to the service elevators. Gran gave Art a long and teary hug. She was less frail than she'd been in his memory, taller and sturdier. The smell of her powder and the familiar acoustics of Union Station's cavernous platform whirled him back to his childhood in Toronto, to the homey time before he'd gotten on the circadian merry-go-round. "Gran, this is Linda," he said. "Oh, it's so nice to meet you," Gran said, taking Linda's hands in hers. "Call me Julie." Linda smiled a great, pretty, toothy smile. "Julie, Art's told me all about you. I just know we'll be great friends." "I'm sure we will. Are you hungry? Did they feed you on the train? You must be exhausted after such a long trip. Which would you rather do first, eat or rest?" "Well, I'm up for seeing the town," Linda said. "Your grandson's been yawning his head off since Buffalo, though." She put her arm around his waist and squeezed his tummy. "What a fantastic couple you make," Gran said. "You didn't tell me she was so pretty, Arthur." "Here it comes," Art said. "She's going to ask about great-grandchildren." "Don't be silly," Gran said, cuffing him gently upside the head. "You're always exaggerating." "Well, I think it's a splendid idea," Linda said. "Shall we have 2, 3, 4? "Make it 10, Art said, kissing her cheek. "Oh, I couldn't have 10, Linda said, "but 5 is a nice compromise. 5 it will be. We'll name the first one Julie if it's a girl, or Julius if it's a boy." "Oh, we are going to get along," Gran said, and led them up to the curb where the red cap had loaded their bags onto a cab. They ate dinner at Lindy's on Yonge Street, right in the middle of the Sleaze Strip. The steakhouse had been there for the better part of a century, and its cracked red vinyl booths and thick ribeyes smothered in horseradish and HP sauce were just as Art had remembered. Riding up Yonge Street, the city lights had seemed charming and understated. Even the porn marquees felt restrained after a week in New York. Art ate a steak as big as his head and fell into a postprandial torpor, whence he emerged only briefly to essay a satisfied belch. Meanwhile, Gran and Linda nattered away like old friends, making plans for the week, the zoo, the island, a day trip to Niagara Falls, a ride up the CN Tower, all the touristy stuff that Art had last done in elementary school. By the time Art lay down in his bed, belly tight with undigested steak, he was feeling wonderful and at peace with the world. Linda climbed in beside him, wrestled away a pillow and some covers, and snuggled up to him. "That went well," Art said. "I'm really glad you two hit it off." "Me too, honey," Linda said, kissing his shoulder through his t-shirt. He'd been able to get his head around the idea of sharing a bed with his girlfriend under his grandmother's roof, but doing so nude seemed somehow wrong. "We're going to have a great week," he said. "I wish it would never end." "Yeah," she said, and then began to snore into his neck. The next morning, Art woke stiff and serene. He stretched out on the bed, dimly noted Linda's absence, and padded to the bathroom to relieve his bladder. He thought about crawling back into bed, was on the verge of doing so, when he heard the familiar, nerve-wracking harangue of Linda arguing down her calm. He opened the door to his old bedroom, and there she was, stark naked and beautiful in the morning sun, calm in hand, eyes focused on the middle distance, shouting, "No, goddammit, no, not here! Jesus, are you a moron? I said no!" Art reached out to touch her back, noticed that it was trembling, visibly tense and rigid, and pulled his hand back. Instead, he quietly set about fishing in his small bag for a change of clothes. "This is not a good time. I'm at Art's grandmother's place, all right? I'll talk to you later." She threw her comm on the bed and whirled around. "Everything all right?" Art said timidly. "No, goddammit, no it isn't." Art pulled on his pants and kept his eyes on her comm, which was bent and scratched from 100,000 angry hang-ups. He hated it when she got like this, radiating anger and spoiling for a fight. "I'm going to have to go, I think," she said. "Go?" "To California. That was my fucking ex again. I need to go and sort things out with him." "Your ex knows who I am?" She looked blank. "You told him you were at my grandmother's place. He knows who I am?" "Yeah," she said. "He does. I told him, so he'd get off my back." "And you have to go to California?" "Today. I have to go to California today." "Jesus, today? We just got here." "Look, you've got lots of catching up to do with your Gran and your friends here. You won't even miss me. I'll go for a couple of days and then come back." "If you gotta go," he said. "I gotta go." He explained things as best as he could to Gran while Linda repacked her backpack, then saw Linda off in a taxi. She was already savaging her comm, booking a ticket to L.A. He called Fede from the condo's driveway. "Hey, Art, how's Toronto?" "How'd you know I was in Toronto?" Art said. But he knew then. Though he couldn't explain how he knew that Linda and Fede had been talking. He knew that Linda had been talking to Fede this morning, and not her fucking ex. God, he was thinking the poor schmuck that way already. Fucking ex. Christ, it was 5 a.m. on the West Coast. It couldn't be the ex. He just knew. "Lucky guess," Fede said breezily. "How is it?" "Oh, terrific. Great to see the old hometown and all. How are things with Perceptronics? When should I plan on being back in Boston?" "Oh, it's going all right, but slow. Hurry up and wait, right? Look, don't worry about it. Just relax there. I'll call you when the deal's ready, and you'll go back to Boston, and we'll sort it out, and it'll all be fantastic. And don't worry, really, all right?" "Fine, Fede." Art wasn't listening anymore. Fede had gone into bullshit mode, and all Art was thinking of was why Linda would talk to Fede and then book a flight to L.A. "How are things in London?" he asked automatically. Fine, Fede said, just as automatically. "Not the same without you, of course." "Of course," Art said. "Well, bye then." "Bye," Fede said. Art felt an unsuspected cunning stirring within him. He calmed Linda in her cab. "Hey, dude," he said. "Hey," she said, sounding harassed. "Look, I just spoke to my Gran and she's really upset you had to go. She really liked you." "Well, I liked her too." "Great. Here's the thing." He drew in a breath. "Gran made you a sweater. She made me one too. She's a knitter. She wanted me to send it along after you. It looks pretty good. So, if you give me your ex's address, I can FedEx it there and you can get it." There was a lengthy pause. "Why don't I just pick it up when I see you again?" Linda said, finally. Gotcha, Art thought. "Well, I know that'd be the sensible thing, but my Gran, I don't know, she really wants me to do this. It'd make her so happy. I don't know, my ex might cut it up or something. Oh, I'm sure he wouldn't do that. I could just schedule the delivery for after you arrive. That way you can sign for it. What do you think? I don't really think... Come on, Linda. I know it's nuts, but it's my Gran. She really likes you. Linda sighed. Let me calm you the address, okay? Thanks, Linda, Art said, watching the address and Van Nuys scroll on his comm screen. Thanks a bunch. Have a great trip. Don't let your ex get you down. Now, armed with Linda's fucking ex's name, Art went to work. He told Gran he had some administrative chores to catch up on for an hour or two, promised to have supper with her and Father Ferlinghetti that night, and went out onto the condo's sun deck with his keyboard velcroed to his thigh. Trepan, hey! Colonel Onik. Trepan, hey, what's up? I hear you're back on the East Coast. Trepan, sure enough. Back in Toronto. How are things with you? Colonel Onik. Same as ever. Trying to quit the day job. Trepan, private to Colonel Onik. Are you still working at Merrill Lynch? Colonel Onik, private. Yeah. Trepan, private to Colonel Onik. Still got access to LexisNexis? Colonel Onik, private. Sure, but they're on our asses about abusing the accounts. Every search is logged and has to be accounted for. Trepan, private to Colonel Onik. Can you get me background on just one guy? Colonel Onik, private. Who is he? Why? Trepan, private to Colonel Onik. It's stupid. I think someone I know is about to go into biz with him, and I don't trust him. I'm probably just being paranoid, but... Colonel Onik, I don't know, man. Is it really important? Trepan, private to Colonel Onik. Oh crap, look. It's my girlfriend. I think she's screwing the guy. I just want to get an idea of who he is, what he does, you know. Colonel Onik, private. Heh, that sucks. Okay, check back in a couple hours. There's a guy across the hall who never logs out of his box when he goes to lunch. I'll sneak in there and look it up on his machine. Trepan, private to Colonel Onik. Kick ass, thanks. Transferring address book entry Toby Ginsburg to Colonel Onik. Receipt confirmed. Trepan, private to Colonel Onik. Thanks again. Colonel Onik, private. Check in with me later. I'll have something for you then. Art logged off, flushed with triumph. Whatever Fede and Linda were cooking up, he'd get wise to it, and then he'd nail him. What the hell was it, though? Chapter 23. My cousins visited me a week after I arrived at the Nut House. I'd never been very close to them, and certainly our relationship had hardly blossomed during the week I spent in Toronto, trying to track down Linda and Fede's plot. I have 2 cousins. They're my father's sister kids, and I didn't even meet them until I was about 20 and tracking down my family history. They're Ottawa Valley kids, raised on government town pork, aging hippie muesli, and country-style corn pone. It's a weird mix, and we've never had a conversation that I would consider a success. Ever met a violent, aggressive hippie with an intimate knowledge of whose genitals one must masticate in order to get a burning permit or make a pot bust vanish? It ain't pretty. Cousin the first is Audie. She's a year older than me, and she's the smart one on that side of the family, the one who ended up at Queen's University for a BS in electrical engineering and an MA in poli-sci, and even so finished up back in Ottawa, freelancing advice to clueless MPs dealing with Taiwanese and Sierra Leonese OEM importers. Audie's married to a nice fella whose name I can never remember, and they're going to have kids in 5 years. It's on a timetable that she actually showed me once when I was there on biz and stopped in to see her at the office. Cousin the second is Alfie. 3 years younger than me, raised in the shadow of his overachieving sister, he was the capo of Ottawa Valley Script Kiddies, a low-rent hacker who downloaded other people's code for defeating copyright use control systems, and made a little biz for himself bootlegging games, porn, music, and video, until the Wipo bots found him through traffic analysis and busted his ass, bankrupting him, and landing him in the clink for 60 days. Audie and Alfie are blonde and ruddy and a little heavy-set, all characteristics they got from their father's side. So add to that the fact that I grew up without being aware of their existence, and you'll understand the absence of any real fellow feeling for them. I don't dislike them, but I have so little in common with them that it's like hanging out with time travelers from the least interesting historical era imaginable. But they came to Boston and looked me up in the Nuthatch. They found me sitting on the sofa in the ward, post-group, arms and ankles crossed, dozing in a shaft of sunlight. It was my habitual napping spot, and I found that a nap between group and dinner was a good way to sharpen my appetite and anesthetize my taste buds, which made the mealtime slop bearable. Audie shook my shoulder gently. I assumed at first that she was one of the inmates trying to get me involved in a game of Martian narco-checkers, so I brushed her hand away. They probably got 'em all doped up, she said. The voice was familiar and unplaceable, so I cracked my eyelid, squinting up at her silhouette in the afternoon sun. There he is, she said. Come on, up and at him, tiger. I sat up abruptly and scrubbed at my eyes. Audie? I asked. Yep, and Alfie. Alfie's pink face hove into view. Hi, Art, he mumbled. Jesus, I said, getting to my feet. Audie put out a superfluous steadying hand. Wow. Surprised? Audie said. Yeah. Audie thrust a bouquet of flowers into my arms. What are you doing here? Oh, your grandmother told me that you were here. I was coming down to Boston for work anyway, so I flew in a day early so I could drop in. Alfie came down with me. He's my assistant now. I almost said something about convicted felons working for government contractors, but I held on to my tongue. Consequently, an awkward silence blossomed. Well, Audie said at last. Well, let's have a look at you then. She actually took a lap around me, looking me up and down, making little noises. You look all right, Art. Maybe a little skinny even. Alfie's got a box of cookies for you. Alfie stepped forward and produced the box, a family pack of President's Choice ridiculous chocoholic extra chewies, a Canadian store brand I'd been raised on. Within seconds of seeing them, my mouth was sloshing with saliva. It's good to see you, Audie and Alfie. I managed to say it without spitting, an impressive feat given the amount of saliva I was contending with. Thanks for the care package. We stared at each other blankly. So, Art, Alfie said. So, how do you like it here? Well, Alfie, I said, I can't say as I do, really. As far as I can tell, I'm as sane as I've ever been. It's just a bunch of unfortunate coincidence and bad judgment that got me here. I refrained from mentioning Alfie's propensity for lapses in judgment. Wow, Alfie says. That's a bummer. We should do something, you know, Audie. Not really my area of expertise, Audie said in clipped tones. Would if I could. You know that, right, Art? We're family, after all. Oh, sure, I say magnanimously. But now that I'm looking at them, my cousin who got into thousands of times more trouble than I ever did, driving drunk, pirating software, growing naughty smokables in the backyard, and got away with it unscathed, I feel a stirring of desperate hope. Only what? Alfie said. Only maybe, Audie, do you think you could, that is, if you got the time, do you think you could have a little look around and see if any of your contacts could maybe set me up with a decent lawyer who might be able to get my case reheard? Or a shrink for that matter? Something? Because frankly, it doesn't seem like they're going to let me go. Ever. Ever. Audie squirmed and glared at her brother. I don't really know anyone that fits that bill, she said at last. Well, not first-hand, sure, why would you? You wouldn't. I thought I was starting to babble, but I couldn't help myself. You wouldn't. But maybe there's someone that someone you know knows who can do something about it. I mean, it can't hurt to ask around, can it? I suppose it can't, she said. Wow, I said, that would be just fantastic, you know. Thanks in advance, Audie, really, I mean it, just for trying. I can't thank you enough. This place, well, it really sucks. There it was, hanging out, my desperate and pathetic plea for help. Really, there was nowhere to go but down from there. Still, the silence stretched and snapped, and I said, Hey, speaking of, can I offer you guys a tour of the ward? I mean, it's not much, but it's home. So I showed them. The droolers and the fondlers and the pukers and my horrible little room and the scarred ping-pong table and the sticky decks of cards and the meshed-in TV. Alfie actually seemed to dig it in a kind of horrified way. He started comparing it to the new Kingston pen where he'd done his 6-month bit. After seeing the first puker, Audie went quiet and thin-lipped, leaving nothing but Alfie's enthusiastic gurgling as counterpoint to my tour. Art, Audie said finally, desperately, do you think they'd let us take you out for a cup of coffee or a walk around the grounds? I asked. The nurse looked at a column for a while and then shook her head. Nope, I reported. They need a day's notice for off-ward supervised excursions. Well, too bad, Audie said. I understood her strategy immediately. Too bad. Nothing for it then. Guess we should get back to our hotel. I planted a dry kiss on her cheek, shook Alfie's sweaty hand, and they were gone. I skipped supper that night and ate cookies until I couldn't eat another bite of rich chocolate. Got a comm? I asked Doc Sandor casually. What for? Want to get some of this down, the ideas for the hospital, before I go back out on the ward. And that is what I want to do mostly. But the temptation to just log on and do my thing? Oh. Sure, he says, checking his watch. I can probably stall them for a couple hours more. Feel free to make a call or whatever, too. Doc Sandor's a good egg.